everybody. Welcome to the show, The Court of Public Opinion. Pete and I were just talking about the future. And we sort of agree, don't we, that the future really is podcasting rather than radio. But if FiveAA came on the market, I reckon we could put together a really good deal to buy it, but you'd have to have them sensible enough to want to sell it. But anyway, that's another story. People used to ask me when I was there if I was going to do it, and they got so angry. They really did. It was strange because when somebody comes along to you and says, a journalist I mean, and somebody says, would you like to buy FiveAA? I was working there, I was an employee. What would they want me to say? No, I wouldn't touch it with a 40-foot barge pole. No, of course, that could be insulting. No, I said, yes, of course I would. Oh, I'd love to buy FiveAA. And they got so angry, I can't tell you. Anyway, that's another story, another time, another place. Anyway, how are you? I do hope you're well. We're going to be working feverishly in the next couple of weeks to get the podcast part of this, because you're watching it on Facebook. But Andy Martin puts it on various platforms for us. And the Court of Public Opinion you can listen to as a podcast anywhere in the world. Andy, I think it's an amazing technology, and as I say, Pete and I were just agreeing, it's probably the future. Probably the future. I can sit in my garage and talk to everybody, and when we get our little mixer and other little elements together, we can take phone calls, have guests, play music, have fun. Not that I'm not having fun now. Pete, are you having fun?
I love it.
God bless you. It's June the 21st, 1982, 9:30 p.m. Prince William of Wales was born to Prince Charles and Princess Diana at St Mary's Hospital in Paddington in London. Happy birthday, Your Highness. Happy birthday. Jane Russell was born in Minnesota. Jane Russell, 1921. John Thompson died. Hey, Pete, can we get a picture of the Thompson?
Who's just going to grab it for you?
Okay, do that.
Where is it?
It should be over there somewhere. Is it there?
Don't worry, we'll take a photo of it. Oh, here it is.
Oh, here it is.
Here it is.
Yeah. This is a remarkable,
There you go.
remarkable thing. This is a Thompson submachine gun. It won the war in the Pacific for the Americans. It has been the stalwart of righteousness and also criminals for a long time. Yeah, well, Al Capone, it was his favourite weapon. He preferred the one with the circular magazine, the drum magazine. He used to call it the Chicago typewriter because it went clack, 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 clack. Anyway, it's a remarkable weapon. You never saw that, all right? Forget you saw that. But John Thompson died, the inventor of the submachine gun, in 1940. He died. Not exactly sure when he invented it, because the Thompson was around, the Irish Republican Army. It was one of their favourite guns as well. It was around in 1912, something like that. It's been around a long time. What else can I tell you? Mac Gordon. He was born in Warsaw, composer of Did You Ever See a Dream Walking? Chattanooga Choo Choo. He also wrote The More I See You, and he wrote I Got a Girl in Kalamazoo. Mac Gordon. He wrote songs with somebody, now who was it now? Lee Davis, I think. Lee Davis. Well, it's always the same. You have to have two. One writes the music, one writes the words. That's usually how it works. The Royal College of Surgeons was founded in London in 1843. The second general strike in Australia's history, called by the ACTU to protest against the arrest of union officials in Western Australia during the strike of Western Australia in that year, 1979. Senator Don Jessup, he was a nice bloke, I remember him. He was born 1927. Maureen Connolly died in Dallas, Texas, US tennis champion, known as Little Mo. She died 1969. The BBC first televised the Wimbledon Tennis Championship on this day in 1937. John Paul Young was born in Glasgow, Scotland. John Paul Young. Did they call him Squeak or something? I think they did.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Squeak. I don't know why they called him Squeak. Born 1950. The world premiere of Evita at the Prince Edward Theatre. The detective story writer Dick Francis got married to Mary Bluntschli on this day in 1947. Richard Nixon married Pat in 1940. Lionel Rose was born in Victoria in 1948. Oh, the 33 1/3 record was introduced by Columbia Records on this day in 1948. Wow! And they're now back in fashion. People like them. 1961, the first aircraft to fly non-stop from the UK to Australia arrived in 1961, and Bert Camford died at the age of 57 in 1980. What was it called? What was his hit?
Swinging Safari.
Swinging Safari.
The Happy Trumpet, I think, was another one.
Yeah, the happy, yes.
Something like that.
He had some good music. He really did. Really good music. I was talking about the budget, I think, when I left you yesterday, and I was thinking about what the Premier said. He said something like, of his budget, you can't help everybody. Well, that's true, Mr. Premier, and you can't please everybody. But I think the problem with politics in Australia today is that they just have to help the most needy, the people who are in need. And I suggest, maybe, from the people's point of view, the less you take from the people in the first place, the less you have to give back to them later. But then again, if you did that, you wouldn't need all those public servants and all those consultants, would you? And without us, who's going to pay for them? It's a great big machine, isn't it? Great big churning thing that goes on. Don't know. As we said the other day when I was telling you about the Janine Haynes interview that I did back in the 1980s about bed hopping in Canberra, with now Senator David Van, alleged scandal. Not much seems to have changed. We can, however, add a lot of bottom pinching to the list of temptations. I've never had my bottom pinched. If I was a woman, I don't know what I'd make of it. Look.
Well, I have.
You have?
I loved it.
You didn't complain?
Why not?
No. Well, you know, I know women who walk past a building site and they keep walking past till they get a wolf whistle. apparently people get into trouble for wolf whistling. A pretty lady. Oh, the world is not what it used to be. Look, honestly, if you take all those egos and you stick them out in the middle of nowhere in a place called Canberra, removed from their families, lots of booze, it would be very easy for them to think that they were not the lawmakers, but the law itself. Be reasonable. I think if my daughter wanted to go to Canberra, I'd counsel her not to do it. I think it's an environment that I wouldn't want my daughter to be involved in. I wouldn't want her to end up hard like some of the women I see in politics and in public service in Canberra, and I wouldn't want to see her abused. So best to avoid the place, I would suggest. While we're on the subject of Senator David Van and Senator Lydia Thorpe, Senator Thorpe says that it was only when a white woman stood up and said the same thing that she had said that had happened to her that the media and others took notice. Well, the problem is Lydia Thorpe has a bit of history. I can understand people thinking that she is a bit of a ratbag. No offence. But that's something she's done herself. What you sow, so shall you reap, as the saying goes. But another point. When a Member of Parliament quits his or her party, it goes for Lydia, and it goes for David. When a Member of Parliament quits his or her party or gets kicked out, that person should not be able to go and sit on the crossbenches. There must be a way to remove these people from Parliament and the public purse, and they can go and stand at a by-election and get elected in the new, wearing the new hat that they choose to wear, if they choose to wear it. Canberra politicians are paid to do a job. And that job is look after and run the country. And do it in the most beneficial economic way. Really, when you look at the last little while, it seems to me that they have been totally consumed with themselves. Totally self-absorbed. Things that don't really concern us. Maybe they concern a tiny minority of us, but their time, which I think we could probably, if you took the infrastructure and all the support and the public service and everything else, their time would be costing us about $1 million an hour. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that should be spent on us. I mean, their attention should be devoted to us. Their absolute focus has been not on us, not the nationally important stuff. I mean, how vital is this voice thing, for example? 3% of the population. Climate change nonsense. And what's going on with all the LGBTQ business? Again, 3% of the population. The national government, the capital, everything stops because somebody gets her bottom pinched. I hope these people never have to go to Italy or France, because I tell you, I think bottom pinching is quite serious in that part of the world. Quite popular too, I think. I do not speak from experience, but you get my drift. Important stuff that affects the majority of Australians, you and me, mainstream, ordinary people trying to cope with everyday suburban life. Cost of living, the cost of electricity, the kids' education, street violence, youth crime, health costs, ambulance ramping, drug abuse. Now, I know these things are not very sexy, but it's where we live. Federal police have had another, and I'll say a great victory over the drug trade. Speaking of one of the things that the government should be worrying about. A massive victory with this latest meth bust, methamphetamine. Don't know much about it myself, don't want to. 6 tons of the stuff. 6 tonnes, worth $1.7 billion on the streets of our cities. Great intelligence work, surveillance work, patience, detective work. That's one container. Drugs carefully hidden in its contents. It's worth repeating. I've said it before. 10%, only 10% of containers are ever checked at Australian ports. This $1.7 billion drug bust isn't even the tip of the iceberg. Contraband of every description gets into this country. Guns, a particular worry. But, you know, this gun, for example, it's totally harmless. You know, heavy as hell, but it's totally harmless. It's deactivated, certified by the police, deactivated. But I'm quite sure the real thing comes into this country more often than you and I could possibly imagine. But the crooks know, as we know, that with so few containers being examined, their chances of being caught are very, very small. For them, it's well worthwhile taking the risk. Why don't we check every container, I hear you say? I agree. Money is the answer. Only money. That's the only reason. The government could divert some of the billions of dollars that it wastes on far less important things, which of course the opposition could and should take up politically as a priority. But no, not a word. I had a lot of feedback from various people about bits and pieces that have come up on the show. One very interesting comment from, I think it was Judith, who said that why don't they fit, this is in relation to that tragic accident in the Hunt Valley up near Newcastle in New South Wales, where the bus tipped over. Why don't we put black box technology in buses? This is the same black box technology which was developed in Australia. It's now in every aeroplane around the world. It should be in a lot more areas. You know, I think they do have them in trains. I could be wrong. I stand corrected if I am. But black box technology in buses would be a great innovation. I think also black boxes in operating theatres would be a great innovation. Just to know what happened. A record. That's not to say you go around pointing the finger and blaming people. And just quickly, I see with a degree of sadness the Steam Ranger, this wonderful enterprise that we have here in South Australia. Maybe they exist in other parts of the country. I'm not familiar with them, but here in South Australia, we are enormously proud of the Steam Ranger. A whole army of volunteers who literally maintain these wonderful old romantic steam trains. Thank God the conservationist people and the climate change people haven't decided to tie themselves to the tracks to try and stop the Steam Ranger because it burns coal. But, you know, I shouldn't have mentioned that because I'm probably giving them ideas. But all of those volunteers who make these trains run and keep them running to the wonderful advantage of tourism and, of course, the adventure we all have in ourselves, the idea of getting on a steam train. It's Agatha Christie. It's just wonderful what they do. And I don't know. I have no idea how much damage. All I saw was this beautiful steam train and carriages that had been derailed because somebody had decided to try and risk his luck at a crossing. Anyway, I'm sure that we'll all rally around and get the Steam Ranger back on her tracks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for joining us in the Court of Public Opinion. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordeux. Peter Clark. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. Bye for now.